Hello and welcome to Hot and Heavy, the Elaine podcast. I'm your host, Shivani Desai. Today I'll be talking about Season 9, Episode 19, The Maid. Hello everyone. I hope everyone is just having the best day possible. I'm doing pretty well. It's a little bit hectic. I am, for the second week now, kind of single momming it because my husband is traveling. It's just been kind of juggling everything, and sometimes that's what it is, and you just keep barreling through it and doing everything that needs to be done. I've also been a regular at public charging stations. I am now in the EV family. I recently leased a Honda Prologue, which is an all-electric vehicle. I'm so excited that I made that change. I've been wanting to for a long time, and I absolutely love the car. We are getting a home charger installed, but there was like a 2-week gap between me getting the car and the home charging installation. And so I've had to visit those public charging stations, and it's an education. I think I mentioned it last time, but yeah, I've been a regular there now. Everything's working out, but I had some hiccups at first, even had a stress dream about it. I mean, this is my life. Okay, why don't we go ahead and get into the episode? The synopsis for The Maid is as follows. And why don't I remind everyone, in case this is the first episode you're tuning into, I'm not sure why you would start at Season 9, Episode 19, but hey, I'm not going to judge. But the synopses that I read from come from the coffee table book that was included in the box set of Seinfeld DVDs that I own. The box set is in a replica of Jerry's fridge. It's extremely cool. I love it so much. And the coffee table book takes you episode by episode with a synopsis, some facts, some photos. So I just wanted to remind those who maybe forgot, or any new listeners, this is where I get the synopsis from. I do not write it myself. I would never write them so poorly. Some of them are really poorly written. I just imagine the job was given to some, 22-year-old intern who had never seen Seinfeld, and they just kind of skimmed through the episode and wrote the best synopsis from that. It just seems very rushed and oftentimes inaccurate. So with that being said, let's read the synopsis for The Maid. Jerry becomes involved with his maid, who keeps taking his maid money even though she's stopped cleaning. Elaine changes her number to avoid getting wrong numbers, then regrets it after she's given a new unhip area code. Unhip, okay. Maybe not 22 years old, maybe 72 years old. Kramer's girlfriend moves to another part of the city, causing Kramer to act like he's in a long-distance relationship. George tries to acquire a nickname without success. This episode was written by Alec Berg, Dave Mandel, and Jeff Schaefer. Okay, so we start out the episode at Monk's. Jerry orders a cup of tea with lemon. He's got this really raspy voice, which I kind of had this morning. I can't get this little raspiness out. George asked what happened to his voice, and he said he was screaming at hecklers all night. Last time I opened for a rodeo. George announces he's done with George Costanza. Jerry needs some clarification. Is this the suicide talk or the nickname talk? George says the nickname. He wants a nickname that will make people light up, like Liza, Jerry jokes. No, not Liza, but George likes T-Bone. But there's no T in your name. You could be G-Bone. There's no G-Bone, George says. Well, there's a G-spot. That's a myth. And according to a very good friend of mine, it is not a myth. She gave a whole lesson to me and my girlfriends on how to find that G-spot. Just a glimpse into some things I talk about with my friends. George then takes a messy bite of his sandwich, and Jerry takes one look at him and says, T-Bone, the ladies are gonna love you. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry and Elaine are on the couch, and she's wondering how Jerry got hired for a rodeo. Oh, they heard I opened for Kenny Rogers once. And she recalls that Kenny threw you off the bus in the middle of Alabama. Oh, I had that coming to me. I think there was some backstory here where Jerry did, in fact, in real life, open for Kenny Rogers, and he didn't get thrown off the bus, but apparently they didn't get along very well. Elaine stops talking as soon as Jerry's maid enters the room. She's a bit uncomfortable. She leans into Jerry. "Why'd you get a maid?" Jerry leans in. "You don't have to whisper. She knows she's a maid." Elaine whispers back, "Well, where'd you get her?" And at full volume, Jerry responds right into Elaine's ear, "I hired her from a service." The maid says she's all done, and she takes the $40 from the counter and exits, while Jerry stares at her for a bit too long as she leaves. He turns back to Elaine, who has a knowing smirk on her face. He's like, "What? Come on, Jerry, you didn't notice? Notice what?" He tells Elaine, she's not even really a maid. She wants to be an actress or model or a dancer or a newswoman. Elaine just nods along. Of course. Kramer enters. He's very bummed. He says his girlfriend's moving away. And Jerry's like, "You have a girlfriend? Jerry, where have you been?" "At a rodeo." Well, it turns out his girlfriend is just moving to downtown New York, only 10 minutes by subway. But Kramer considers this a long-distance relationship since it's a whole different world downtown, different Gap, different Tower Records. Plus, she's a 646. Elaine doesn't know what the 646 means. Oh, it's a new area code. Since they've run out of 212s, now they have 646. Elaine remembers when she was a 718 when she first moved to New York. "I cried every night." Kramer tells Elaine he's going to stop by later to pick up a fax at her apartment. She tells him, "I don't have a fax machine." Kramer is so annoyed. "Well, what are we going to do?" He turns to Jerry. "This is why you need a fax and a Xerox." "And a deadbolt," Jerry says. Kramer asks Elaine, "Now, are you sure you don't have one? Because there's a lot of things in my apartment I've never seen." "Then maybe you have a fax machine." Whoa, that just blew Kramer's mind. The actress in this scene, Angela Featherstone, she plays Cindy, the maid. She is known for The Wedding Singer, Con Air, and I remember her vividly from Friends. She played the hot girl at the copy shop, and she is the woman who Ross sleeps with when he and Rachel were on a break. Oh, that episode was rough. I remember, I think I probably taped it. I'm for sure. What am I saying? I absolutely taped it. I would tape all the must-see TV television on Thursday nights. And oh my God, I felt like Ross had cheated on me. That is how invested I was in Friends, in Ross and Rachel. Don't judge me. It was the 90s. I cut my hair like Rachel. I did it all, folks. Okay. Back to Angela Featherstone. I really enjoy her in general. I've seen her in many things. I think she's been funnier in other shows and other movies. Like, I love her in The Wedding Singer. She's really funny. This performance is more subtle, not necessarily funny, but I think she does a great job as Cindy. I think she does what the role asks for, where she's got a personality for sure. She's got a purpose. She's got some substance. Great luck for a love interest here in Seinfeld. I like that she's a little aloof. Like, she's just kind of like, okay. It's very fitting. But also, she seems way too young for Jerry, which I should just let that go because that's pretty much every love interest on Seinfeld and in Jerry's real life. My take on the scene, I like the whispering into shouting, shouting in the ear. That bit is very funny. Elaine's reaction when Jerry explains Cindy's aspirations, it's so wonderful. She's heard this thousands of times. Every pretty girl in New York has the same dreams. She's like, whatever. Yeah. Go through the list. I've heard it all. I think this is a very clever way to introduce the area code story for Elaine because Kramer brings it up as part of his long distance relationship plot. And I wanted to just go in real quick what Kramer's story is a continuation of because you didn't see it in the last episode. So in the previous episode where Kramer has the police caution tape, an entire storyline was cut out. Basically, he meets a woman at Monk's and is just like, it's like love at first sight. He is super taken by her. And this is all in the deleted scene. So I saw all of them. And basically, he just keeps, for lack of a better term, stalking her. Finally, he lures her. Somehow he finds out where she lives. He lures her from her apartment to a romantic restaurant with the police caution tape. Like he tapes out a path for her where she can't, like, of course she could just like not go down the path. But anyway, she keeps telling him she's not interested. over and over and over again, not in a rude way, but he doesn't stop. And he lures her to this restaurant with the police tape, like marking out the path. And then, so this is the same woman that he's referring to from the Frogger episode. Madeline is the woman that he lured. And so she finds that, of course, so charming, because all of us women love when a man won't take no for an answer and then traps us into a date. I mean, how fun, how fun. Now, the only funny part of the scene where she finally makes it to the restaurant and Kramer is at a table with candles and flowers and all this stuff. But then like everyone on the street keeps coming in, including George and Jerry. They're like, where are we? Anyway, it was a dumb storyline because I just hated the fact that, oh, it's so romantic when a man won't take no for an answer and he just keeps on and forces the woman to be in a relationship with them. It's like, no, guys, that narrative fucking sucks, okay? No woman wants that. She made it very clear she was not interested. Another fun fact, and just related to Seinfeld, though I can't remember the name of the actress, I apologize, but the actress who played Madeline, where you actually see her in the Frogger episode, she famously dated JFK Jr. for a long time. She at one point was Elaine's real-life competition for John John. All right, back to the scene. Kramer and Elaine's moment about the fax machine, it gets me all the time. I love it. It's very funny. And I think Kramer probably just assumes Elaine has a fax machine because she's a businesswoman. Who knows? But it's amusing that he just assumes this. And her retort about maybe he has a fax machine. It's very funny, but it's also valid to point out. Yeah, you know, Kramer is a hoarder and his place is just full of junk. All right, next we're at Kruger. In the conference room, it's time to order lunch, and Kruger tells his secretary he wants a chef salad. The next guy says a turkey sandwich, and then it gets to George, who proudly requests a T-bone steak. Kruger is taken aback by this for lunch, and George says, I'm just a T-bone kind of guy. Love that T-bone. In fact, you may as well call me. And then the guy next to George interrupts him and says, that sounds good. I'm going to have one too. Watkins, you're ordering a T-bone? This amuses Kruger. Watkins says, I love them. Well, then we should call you T-bone. This doesn't make George happy. No, we shouldn't. Then everyone starts chanting T-bone at Watkins, who is very pleased, while George is distraught that his plan went awry. Ba 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 ba. Boom, ba-dum, boom, 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 boom. We have a Gilmore Girls Seinfeld connection. The actor who plays Watkins is Damon Jones, and he appeared on season 3, episode 11 of Gilmore Girls, entitled I Solemnly Swear. He played the speaker at a new school class for entrepreneurs opening up their own inn, which Lorelai and Suki attend. And he has sort of this Ben Stein character. He's very boring and monotone, delivering this material to a very drab class in a hotel conference room. And of course, the first time I saw him on Gilmore Girls, I'm like, T-bone! All right, next we're in Elaine's apartment. Her phone is ringing as she enters with a bag of groceries. She's rushing to answer it, but when she does answer it, she hears the fax sort of dial-up tone, which is super confusing. She hangs up and sees that her answering machine has 57 messages. She starts playing them one by one, and they're all the fax screeching sound, except one that's from George, but she erases that too. She turns off the machine and she's so frustrated. Oh, Kramer. She goes to pick up her groceries and then the phone starts ringing again. She turns back to it. She knows it's going to be the fax screeching sound, but she's hesitating. Do I ignore it? She doesn't know what to do. Then finally she answers it, kind of with this hopeful, hello? The fax screech starts and she, in response, screeches herself, no! My take on this scene, this is one of my favorite Elaine scenes of the entire series. The physical comedy JLD displays here, it is just masterful. Very little dialogue. It's all in her face and body. She has to first drop those prop groceries. You know, she's got that bag. She drops it. She wants to get the phone. And then listening to the messages and erasing George's, so brilliant. What a fantastic awesome touch to this whole thing. And then the frustration she feels. She's like, what the, God damn it, Kramer. And then when that phone starts ringing again, This is how you know when a physical comedian is so brilliant like JLD. You can almost hear what's going on in her head with every action. All right, what do I do here? I know it's going to be the fact sound. I know it, but I want to answer it. What the fuck do I do? She doubles over. No, I have to answer it. And then she hears the sound she knew she was going to hear, and just the fists and the sound effect. Oh, absolutely perfect. So good. I could watch that scene over and over and over again. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. The maid is all done. She takes the money. She's on her way out, and Jerry opens the door for her, and they kiss before she leaves. And as they kiss, Elaine walks right up and sees the whole thing. The maid greets Elaine and then exits. And Elaine just smiles at Jerry, so satisfied, and says, "All right. Fooling around with your maid, that is a wise decision," she says to Jerry as she walks in. Jerry says, "Come on, do you think I would enter a situation like this so willy-nilly?" Elaine points out the obvious sleaziness. She says, "You are paying a woman to sleep with you." No, he says, "I pay her to clean. The rest is," what? "A health plan." I was going to say being a good host. Oh, Elaine can't help but laugh at this. Jerry goes on to explain how they have their personal relationship and professional relationship. It's separate and quite sophisticated. "Oh," Elaine says, "so you consider this a relationship?" "Yes, I do." "Have you been out?" she has to know. "Yes, we have," Jerry says, kind of snotty. "Where did you go?" "The store." "To get what?" "Cleaning supplies." And Jerry says, "And gum." Well, there's nothing more sophisticated than diddling the maid and chewing some gum. Kramer enters saying how, well, Madeline's off and he misses her already. Elaine comes over and sort of leans towards him and asks him what he was having faxed to her house every 30 seconds. He tells her that he signed up for a food delivery service, Now We're Cooking, and that they're faxing him the menus from some restaurants. "Which ones?" "All of them. He got a premium package." "So this is never going to stop?" "Well, it better not," he says. "I paid for the whole year." He asks Elaine, "Oh, should I pick those up later?" "You can pick them up right now." She leans into his ear and does a very loud impression of the fax screech. My take on this scene. Okay, we follow up the last great JLD scene with another fantastic JLD scene. Elaine catching Jerry. It had to be her, right? It had to be her seeing Jerry kiss Cindy. I mean, it's just perfect. If it was George or Kramer, not as funny. They'd be so for it. They'd cheer him on. But it had to be Elaine because she's the only one who would point out what a bad decision it is. And that whole exchange laying out why this is terrible and Jerry defending it, it's so well written. And both JLD and Jerry Seinfeld perform this very well. I like how he's so like defensive and kind of like a teenager almost. Like, "Yeah, we went to the store." And then that exchange is capped off with Elaine's line, "Diddling the maid and chewing some gum." It's just peak Seinfeld right there. And just, her emotions too. She is so excited. She's not very concerned about how sleazy this is. She loves pointing it out to Jerry, but I think she's also so excited to see this blow up in Jerry's face. Smug bug Jerry, he's always smug. He's just that personality. So it's so delicious for Elaine to rub this in his face because she knows this is not going to end well. And for someone who's so smug and thinks he knows everything, it's just, I can totally get why Elaine is excited about this. And then we get a classic Seinfeld moment, Elaine screeching into Kramer's ear. Oh my God, I remember seeing this when it first aired and just dying at that moment. There's something about doing an impression of that sound. It's just like an impression of someone else, an impression of a human being is definitely funny, especially if it's done well or exaggerated. But doing an impression of a fax machine sound, how hilarious. And it reminds me, I had the same reaction when Phoebe does the bagpipe sound. She's singing, quote unquote, along to Ross when he's playing Celebration on the bagpipes. If you know, you know. It's one of the bloopers from Friends, and he's playing the bagpipes, and he tells all the friends to sing along. And Phoebe just leans forward and she starts going, hee, I mean, it is so funny. I just have a vivid memory of dying laughing. And you can see Jennifer Aniston behind her just totally breaking. It's amazing. Back to the scene, I wanted to comment that in the commentary, they talked about how Jerry sleeping with his maid. This was based on a real life situation with Jerry. At one point, he was dating his trainer. So he was discussing this in the writer's room, like, it's very odd because she comes to my place for training. I'm paying her, but I'm also dating her. So, of course, they were like, all right, that's a storyline. All right, next, we're in Elaine's apartment. Elaine is watching the guy from the phone company. He's switching out some equipment. And there's a voiceover. Elaine is wondering if anyone knows that he's here. And if he just disappeared, would anybody notice? And she picks up a candlestick. He stands up and he's done. He gives her new number. Then she notices it's a 646 number. And he explains, oh, it's a new area code. Well, I thought that was just for new numbers. He tells her, well, this is a new number. No. Elaine tries to argue it's not new. It's changed. And he tells her, look, I work for the phone company, okay? I have a lot of experience with semantics, so don't try to lure me into a maze of circular logic. Well, Elaine has no response except, I could have killed you and no one would have known. And he says it right back to her and gives a smug smile. My take, I like this scene. It moves the story along. We've established the taint of having a 646 number. No one wants it. So it's clear why this is bothering her. So I like that we've set that up. The 646, it's been established. And so it's so wonderful when this comes up again. It doesn't have to be explained. The audience is already in on why 646 is bad. Also in this scene, we hear diabolical Elaine at the top, those weirdo random thoughts we all have. And don't act so innocent out there. You all have had murder thoughts every hour at least, right? I mean, there's always someone you're like, how would I murder that person? Is it just me and Elaine? Whatever. I'm in good company. The conversation with the phone guy is funny, and I like how it ends, just both of them giving each other like these snotty expressions. Also, why is he there? Changing a phone number, even back then, didn't require any equipment changes. Whatever. I'm not going to get hung up on that. And the reason I know this is because we had to change our number, I think twice when I was a kid because of all the stupid bullies prank calling me. My dad could not take it, and we changed our number multiple times. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry finds Kramer on his couch, still on the phone with Madeline. They're watching Quincy together. It comes on at the same time. Gosh, they really knocked off a lot of IQ points with Kramer here. I'll talk about that more later, but man, I mean, it's an amusing plot, but Kramer's not this stupid. Anyway, I'll get more into that later. Madeline has to go to the bathroom during the commercial, and Kramer gets up to go as well, but Jerry grabs the phone. Madeline stays here. I love that sort of mom in charge moment. It's very funny. George enters and Jerry calls him T-Bone. George is all annoyed. No T-Bone. From the crapper, Kramer asks if that's T-Bone. Jerry tells him, no T-Bone. Why no T-Bone? George blows up because Neil Watkins from accounting is T-Bone. Kramer returns from the bathroom and gets back on the phone. He and Madeline are going to play cards together. And on his way out, he tells Jerry, your laundry's piling up. You may want to tell your girlfriend. He does this salute movement. It's really funny. Kramer exits and George asks, your girlfriend is doing your laundry? Kramer yells from the hallway, he's sleeping with his maid. George feels pretty cool since, I've already slept with the maid. Done that. He asks Jerry, have you ever eaten an ostrich burger? No. George is so smug. Why the fuck is George obsessed with ostrich burgers? He brought this up in the Frogger last week as well. And if you guys are at all interested in having an ostrich burger, if there's a Fuddruckers nearby, go get an ostrich burger. I remember the first time I went to a Fuddruckers. It was in Minneapolis. I was on a work assignment. And Fuddruckers was right near the Best Buy headquarters, so we would go there sometimes, even though the Best Buy headquarters had the most amazing cafeteria. It was everything you could ever want. It was incredible. Now, keep in mind, this was 2004, so this was when Best Buy was actually thriving. Now you go to a Best Buy, it's basically Sears. It's a freaking ghost town. Anyway, I remember looking at the menu. I'd never been to a Fuddruckers before. I don't think they were in Michigan at that point. But I remember being so excited, my inner Seinfeld nerd, when I saw that one of the meat options for a burger was ostrich. I was like, oh my God, is this where George had his ostrich burger? All right, next we're on the street. Elaine is talking to a gentleman caller. He's clearly interested, says you're probably one of those women who doesn't like to give out her phone number. Nope, she hands him a piece of paper with her phone number on it. He looks at it. He sees the 646 area code. He's pretty concerned. And she explains, oh, it's just a new area code. What area? New Jersey? No, it's right here in the city. They just took 212 and multiplied it by 3 and added 1 to the middle number. It's the same. I mean, the interest is just dwindling. And then he asks, do I have to dial a 1 first? Elaine just nods regretfully. Well, it appears that the area code is a deal breaker for him. He crumbles up her number and says, I'm kind of seeing someone, and he walks away. Elaine is so pissed. She yells after him, yeah, so am I. My take, I love this. We immediately see the impact of Elaine having this 646 number. I mean, she has a hard enough time dating. The last thing she needs is this blasted 646 area code, another hurdle to find a good guy in this city. And the actor in this scene with her is great. I love how immediately turned off he is. It's a great performance. And that restrained disgust when he says, what area? New Jersey? It's so well done. And JLD's dejected nod after he asks about dialing a 1. It's perfect. She knows exactly where this is going. He's got 1 foot out the door with the area code, and then the dialing the 1. It's the last straw. And then the way she says, so am I. It's just with such rage. I love it. This is end of series Elaine, season 9, almost the finale Elaine, just yelling in the street after a guy rejecting her. Early seasons Elaine, I think we would have gotten choked up Elaine. But no, not season 9 Elaine. She's like, fuck off. It's amazing. It's immediate. And it's with such rage in her voice. My husband and I were just talking about this the other day, how area codes, they don't mean anything anymore. Most of the people in a certain area will probably have the same area code, but we live in Colorado, yet I still have my Michigan area code because that's where I got my cell phone. So we were just talking about how this wouldn't work today. I mean, like many other things, obviously, but it's just how things have changed, right? It really was, your area code was your area. Not the case in 2025. All right, next we're at Kruger. George asks Watkins if he can talk to him at T-Bone. I love how he corrects George. Well, George wants to chat before they go into the conference room, and he explains that, I wanted to be T-Bone. And Watkins laughs. He says, you're a perfect George. Well, this enrages George. Now, you listen to me. Then we see the conference room point of view. We see George from behind, really giving it to T-Bone, as Kruger says. He's waving his arms. He's holding a banana from his lunch. He's stepping up onto a table and just really getting into it. Kruger sort of narrates this for the guys in the conference room. Look at him. He's jumping up and down like some sort of monkey. He asks the guys, hey, what was the name of that monkey that could do sign language? We cut back to George and Watkins, and he tells George, fine, you can have T-Bone. Stop crying. I'm not crying. They walk into the conference room, and George is very excited to announce to the room that from now on, he will be known as, and Kruger interrupts, Coco the monkey. George is confused. What? Go, 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 go. Everyone starts chanting. All right, next we're in Elaine's building. She's walking down the hall when she passes an apartment where a couple is coming out. They're crying. They're upset. She stops and asks the man inside if something happened to Mrs. Krantz. I live in the building. Oh, she passed. Oh, I'm so sorry. He's closing the door when Elaine violently stops him. By any chance, did she have a 212 phone number? My take, we're just moving the story along here. But again, end of series Elaine, season 9 Elaine, no tact, super selfish. She thinks about this woman dying and that her phone number is available. But also kind of badass move, Elaine. Kudos. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Kramer asks if Jerry can borrow his suitcase, and Jerry says, yeah, they're in Kramer's closet behind his skis and tennis racket. Kramer thanks him and says he's getting out of town to visit Madeline for the weekend. And he looks around and notices the state of Jerry's apartment, which is very messy. He asks, where's Cindy? Jerry's like, yeah, she's here, but she just didn't get around to cleaning. She comes out of the bedroom and she greets Kramer, grabs the money, kisses Jerry, and leaves. Jerry's looking around a bit confused. What did I just pay for? Oh. Kramer is scandalized. You're a John. Next, we're at Monk's. George and Jerry are sitting at the counter, and Jerry is reacting to Coco as George's nickname. Tries to make him feel better by saying that it's pretty much the most intelligent ape there was. Yeah, George says. He's not buying it. He asks about Cindy the maid, and Jerry says, I'm basically paying for sex. She's coming over and not cleaning. It's like I'm seeing a prostitute. George asks how much he pays. $40. George pays $60 to his maid, and he's getting nothing. One time she pinched my ass, but I don't know what that was. And Jerry says, I don't know what this is. I like these little moments of just realizing how ridiculous they are, like the self-actualization moments. And this is one of them where Jerry's like, I don't know what the hell this is. Kramer enters with some shopping bags, an I Heart New York t-shirt. He tells them all about his trip downtown. The taxis are insane. Everyone's in a hurry. George is uncomfortable because Kramer is leaning over him to talk to Jerry. He's like, I can't eat with you leaning over like this. You know, they're all at the counter. They're all in this like straight line. He says to Kramer, just look forward. Well, now I can't see Jerry. I look about the same. There's all this confusion between the three of them about who's talking to whom. And Jerry says, I hate the counter. Elaine arrives and says the same thing. Oh, I hate the counter, and sits right next to Jerry. Kramer pops up 3 stools away. Who is that? Elaine tells Jerry that she got a 212 phone number from this old lady in her building, Mrs. Krantz. Oh, she didn't mind. No, she died. Oh, they're so happy. George needs clarification about Mrs. Krantz. Jerry tells him how Elaine got her new number because she died. And Kramer thinks he hears that Newman died. Newman died? Jerry notices a booth has opened up, so they all get up to move, and Kramer finally sees Elaine. Hi, she says. Did you hear about Newman? No, what? Oh. My take on this scene, just brilliance all around. All the blocking with them sitting at the counter, Kramer not being able to hear what's going on. I just described the whole thing, so I'm not going to do it again, but it's so fun. So fun. And since this was the last Monk's scene before the finale, they wanted to switch it up and have them all sitting at the counter. That was in the notes about nothing. Kramer's misunderstanding about Newman dying always gets me in the way he says it to Elaine. Did you hear about Newman? Oh, is he sad though? I don't know. I think he'd be more sad if Newman actually died. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. George enters. Jerry's cleaning, and Cindy, the maid, is just hanging out on the couch. He asks George about the nickname. George holds up a baseball jersey with Coco on it. Jerry notices the number is 00. It's ooh, as in ooh, ah. Cindy says how there's a woman she works with at the maid service named Coco. Says, that girl's all right, and walks away. Now, real quick, this is a callback to when Putty mentions Coco the monkey and high fives Jerry, and he says, yeah, that chimp's all right. So this was supposed to be that. Now, in the commentary, the writers, Dave Mandel, Alec Berg, and Jeff Schaefer, they all acknowledge that that was a really dumb move. They're like, no offense to the actress, like she does it well, but it does come out of nowhere. They didn't think it was as obvious that it was a callback to Putty saying that chimp's all right, which it wasn't, because I had no idea. When I read that, I was like, oh, that's why she says it. I've always thought it's so weird, but I just thought, okay, she's kind of quirky. She's kind of a flighty woman. You know, Cindy, that's just in her personality to be like, that girl's all right, and then walk away. George has the idea to get Coco the maid to work for Kruger because Kruger would never allow 2 Cocos. Oh, he runs a really tight ship, huh? Jerry says. George is very excited. Say goodbye to Coco, and George exits. Both Jerry and Kramer say, goodbye, Coco. Kramer enters and tells Jerry about how this long-distance relationship is killing him. The longing, the distance. And Jerry says, maybe this just isn't for you. Kramer just immediately goes on the defensive. Oh, you want me to be more like you? Sealed up, emotionally unavailable, paying scrub women for sex? No, I'll never be like you. Never! And he leaves. Cindy enters asking, what was that? I didn't hear anything. Cindy is wondering where her money is. After all, Jerry booked her services. Yeah, but you really didn't do any work, Jerry says. I made the bed, but you took a nap in it. So? So I thought that was more girlfriend bed making. No, she says that was the maid. Well, then who took the nap? The girlfriend. He says to her, well, $40 seems pretty steep for a nap. Cindy doesn't like that. So what are you saying? I'm a bad maid or some kind of prostitute? Whoa, ho, 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 ho. Jerry says, let's keep this sophisticated. Cindy is so turned off. I don't think I want to be your girlfriend or your maid. So this is a breakup quitting? Yeah. Don't ever call me or hire me again. And she exits. Fine. Then we're through. And you're fired. Got the Jerry yell. Next, we're in Elaine's apartment. Elaine has gotten her number changed to Mrs. Krantz's 212. Oh, she's so excited. And there's a different phone guy, and she asks what happened to the other man who was there the last time. And he tells her, it's the weirdest thing that happened. He went out on a job and never came back. And the guy exits. The phone rings. Elaine's so excited, back in business. Not the store, just the phone number. She answers it, and a little kid is on the line asking for his Gammy. And she's like, no, you got the wrong number, kid. Gammy Krantz? It's your grandson, Bobby. Why haven't you called? Oh, yikes. Elaine is not sure what to say here. Bobby asks his Gammy if she hates him because of his lazy eye. What? Elaine says, no, I've just been kind of buried around here. My take on this scene, oh my God, I love this. It's another example of heightening. Elaine's plot, it's fascinating. This plot is so well written. It's gone through a lot of phases already, and the episode's not even done. First, Kramer faxing every menu in New York to her, causing her to change her number, dealing with her 646 cursed area code, finding a solution by getting her dead neighbor's number, and now she's got to deal with Mrs. Krantz's grandson, Bobby. There's so much packed into Elaine's story, and I'm loving it. It doesn't seem like there's too much at all. It's so well paced. It flows very logically. None of this is out of the realm of believability. It's so well done. And it really just clicked when I was taking notes for the episode. I'm like, now we're on to this phase of the plot. There's so many phases, but it all works. Oh my God. When he asks about his lazy eye, is that why his grandma hates him? I mean, it's so sad for Bobby. He just has to ask, Gammy, is it because of this lazy eye? So now you all may recognize this kid's voice. This is the same Bobby that Kramer meets in the hospital back in season 7 when he's trying to get the signed Yankees card back from him. And I like that they brought this character back. I think it could have been fun if there was a reference to his hospital stay, like, Gammy, you inspired me to walk again. Or maybe the lazy eye was too much for Gammy, but maybe he didn't want to bring that up because, the lazy eye, he still has a lazy eye. It's too much for Gammy. I believe Bobby, who's in his 30s now, had some serious therapy about Gammy and this lazy eye, the effect it had on his relationship with his grandmother. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Elaine and Jerry are playing Battleship. So the kid doesn't know his grandmother's dead? And then he gets a hit on Elaine's board. No, Elaine says. She guesses the parents didn't know how to tell him. Then she gets a miss on Jerry's board. He called 6 times yesterday. Ugh, what a nightmare it must be to have a real family. I wouldn't worry about it, Jerry says, implying that's not going to happen anytime soon for Elaine. And then Jerry sinks Elaine's submarine. And then Jerry says, Elaine, to imply he's expecting a little more than just her saying it. And then she makes a mouth explosion sound, and Jerry nods with satisfaction. Jerry then gets a call. It's a collect call from, hey, buddy, don't hang up. I accept. Kramer tells Jerry that he and Madeline broke up and now he's lost downtown. Elaine leaves during this call. Jerry asks where he is, what's around him, and they go back and forth about which Ray's Pizza, original, famous. He's on the corner of First and First. How can the same street intersect with itself? I must be at the nexus of the universe. Whatever, Jerry says, just stay there. No matter what occurs, I will find you. I think this is a reference to The Last of the Mohicans. I didn't look it up, guys. Whatever, Google it. My take, Battleship, man. So classic, still holds up. I play this with my kids and crush them every time, not to brag. The key is you just have to bunch all the vessels up to one side with no spaces in between them, and you'll win every time. Trust me. There you go. There's your Battleship tip of the day. The mouth explosion moment, hilarious, very good. And other than that, not much to Elaine's portion here. So let's move on to the next scene, which is on the street. Jerry goes to unlock his car and finds a random dude there. And he tells him he's from Maid to Order. He had a little problem with the payment to Cindy. Jerry says, she didn't really do what she was supposed to do. Yeah, she told me about you. You're a little sicky, aren't you? Disinfecting on the blinds, vacuuming the couch. Jerry stops him. Hey, I live around here. And it looks like the guy's really going to threaten Jerry for stiffing him, but turns out he'll just get the money from Cindy's pocket. Jerry's like, look, I don't want any trouble. And he tries to pay the guy who refuses. Hey, give it to the girl. I'm an independent contractor. Tax purposes. Obviously, we're making a parallel to this guy being a pimp and Jerry being a John and Cindy being a prostitute. All right, next we're in Elaine's apartment. She's on the phone with Bobby, so bored, tells him that he needs to stop calling his Gammy. Why? Because sometimes you call very early in the morning when Gammy has been out late the night before. Sometimes when Gammy isn't alone. She's so frustrated. Your parents still haven't told you what happened to your Gammy? She takes the receiver away for a second. She says, okay, here we go. She gets back on the phone and starts coughing. Oh no, Gammy isn't feeling so well. I think Gammy might be dying. Yep. Okay, goodbye, Bobby. Don't call here anymore. I'm dead now. Gotta go. And she hangs up and kind of shrugs. All right, that's done. Then we get a quick cut to Bobby dialing 911. My take, I love this scene. The pause before she goes into fake dying, here we go. It's so good. And the best part to me is that shrug after she hangs up, like, that was good enough. No regard for this kid's feelings. Classic Elaine. Again, season 9 Elaine. She doesn't give a shit. All right, next we're in Jerry's car. Jerry's on the way to find Kramer when he sees Cindy walking down the street. He pulls over to talk to her. She leans into his window. She's got a short skirt on. Very prostitute talking to a John pose. And she's like, what do you want? He tries to give her the money, but she doesn't want it. He insists she takes it. Come on, let me give it to you. A cop pulls up from behind. Looking for a good time, sir? Want to step out of the car? Sickie? Oh, this is all very sophisticated, Jerry says. Quick scene at Elaine's apartment is next. She's just reading on the couch when the door gets bashed in by a fireman. One of them says, hang on, Gammy, you're going to make it. My take, this is just the whole plot getting wrapped up. Gammy is getting saved thanks to Bobby. And I love, there's a story about the actor, the fireman, who says, Gammy, you're going to make it. Oh my gosh, in the commentary, they all talked about this guy, how it was just sort of a typical thing. You finally land a speaking role on a sitcom or on a show or whatever. And granted, this is the biggest show at the time. And they were talking about how all week this actor was like pacing around. He had one line and they could see him rehearsing it and really just figuring out how he wanted to deliver it and make it funny. But he overdid it. He got to the point where he had over-rehearsed it so much on the night of the recording of this episode in front of the live studio audience, he just froze. He just completely froze. They finally got it. They're like, nope, the take we got was great. We got it out of him, but we had to sort of coach him to be like, hey, we saw you all week. You just need to relax. Like, don't think about it so much. I was like, oh, this poor guy. All right, next we're on the street. Kramer is waiting for Jerry to show up, downtown. He's all lost. The Maid to Order guy rolls up and asks what he's doing if he's lost. Kramer says, my friend was supposed to pick me up, but he's not here. Well, it's not a very good friend. You got any money? No. You want to make some? Okay. Do you know how to use a mop wringer? Yeah. So he opens the door. Why don't you get in? So Kramer gets in. These are soft seats. All right. So Kramer's the new prostitute. There's a tag to the episode. We're in Kruger's office. George has hired Coco the maid and introduces her to everyone as the vice president of acquisitions. Kruger's like, what, so you're just hiring people now? This is what you do? Yes. Okay, that's good enough for me, Coco. Of course, Kruger doesn't care. But when Kruger finds out that her name is Coco, he does exactly as George predicted. He can't have two Cocos. So she'll be Coco and George, you'll be back to being George. So they get into the meeting. There's a stain on the side of the Grace building. What are we going to do? Coco chimes in about her Gammy in Jamaica and the cleaning technique she learned from her. George is like, no one cares about your Gammy. Well, this offends Coco. What did you say about my Gammy? Kruger likes that name, Gammy. Maybe there should be a Gammy. George! And everyone starts chanting, Gammy! Gammy! George gets up in a rage. Gammy's getting upset! The actress who plays Coco Higgins, the maid, is Davinia McFadden. She was a regular on Young and the Restless, also appeared in Diagnosis Murder, Becker, and many other shows. I think she's great. Perfect energy, great chemistry with Jason Alexander. Perfect. Davinia McFadden is pretty much flawless. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, and I will see you on the other side. Greetings and blessed day. Does your commander deserve an extra special treat this month at your sexual assault ceremony? Well, the answer is automatically yes, because as a handmaid, you do not have the right to question anything, even rhetorically. Make your next forced sex session extra special with a super soft petticoat. Made from the silkiest cotton picked by the re-enslaved, these modest undergarments will say to your commander, may the softness of this mandated uniform drown out my bottomless anguish as you abuse me in the name of God. For a limited time, you can pair your super soft petticoat with some novelty bloomers. Choose from 3 hand-crocheted designs, a Planned Parenthood on fire, a woman reading a book on fire, and the classic woman gagged and bound next to an empty wallet who is, of course, on fire. Any of these designs will be sure to arouse your rapist as his wife pins you down. Who says you can't have a little luxury as an imprisoned handmaid? Well, all the white men in charge, of course, but you'll be expected to forget all of that when the soft fabric brushes against your violated body. Get your super soft petticoat today. It's simple. All you have to do is recite the pledge of Elon Musk to an armed guard, which will unlock privilege to the Bezos marketplace, where, after passing a lie detector test that confirms your belief that Emperor Musk has the length and girth of a Cybertruck, you can peruse the aisles of Petticoat Junction. And once you have picked out your super soft petticoat, approved by the Lord, you just need to bow to the sculpture of Donald Trump peeing on Mark Zuckerberg, sprinkle yourself with the holy water from the Gulf of Google, and a fellow handmaid will wrap up your petticoat to take back to your cell. Oh, and all of this is done while you're surrounded by men with machine guns. Super soft petticoats. Because people wanted cheaper eggs. And we're back. Okay, I kind of sprinkled in some of the extras while I talked about the episode, so we're going to move on to Greg's sack lunch. Greg is our most dedicated contributor, and every week he sends us a sack full of his thoughts. So his overall thoughts for The Maid, he says, for some reason, I thought this episode already happened. It seems so like we've been there, done that with these plots. This one is a weaker episode for me, given that nothing really is all that funny, but there are some small moments here and there. This does sort of feel like an instance where they had plot ideas they just wanted to use up before the finale. Interesting. I don't think I agree with that, Greg. I think we are on different sides of the coin here, which is fine. We're allowed to disagree. I've said that before. No, I think there's very entertaining things in this episode. And like I said, with Elaine's plot, it is so incredibly well done for the reasons I talked about, just so many phases to it, but done so well balanced. And it doesn't feel like they've packed in a lot. It just feels very logical. And at that time, a very relatable plot for her. But I'll get more into my thoughts about the whole plot in a little bit. Next in Greg's sack are his favorite scenes and Elaine moments. He says, I love when Elaine is relaying the messages to Kramer and does the fax noise into his ear. Kids nowadays wouldn't understand any of this. Pre-cell phone, worrying about your area code, fax machines. A different area code meant you paid for long distance. Times have so changed. I love this moment, both because of Elaine's shriek, but Michael Richards' reaction always cracks me up. That's why that moment works so much. The screeching and then the fact that he just kind of stays there. He doesn't run away. He keeps his ear there, but the rest of his body reacts. It's brilliant. But yes, to your point, yeah, it's a different time. I mean, my best friend growing up lived in a town that was far enough away. She lived in Rochester Hills while I lived in Royal Oak, Michigan. And I had to dial a 1 and it was a long distance charge. And we had a 10-minute limit because I made the mistake one time of just talking to her for like an hour, 2 hours a day after school. And my dad got the bill and was like, what the hell? So we were limited to, first of all, 10 minutes, but also after 5 p.m., that was when the long distance rates went down. Yeah, guys, I'm old. Next, Greg says, my favorite thing here is when Elaine is pondering about killing the guy from the phone company as if nobody would ever know. I watch a lot of Dateline and this bit always has cracked me up. Not that any of us would murder anybody, but there's something in us that makes us think we could get away with it. I love how the actor responds to, I could have killed you and no one would have known. He's not wrong. She needs to watch who she crosses with her sass. Completely. Oh my gosh. I know. Like, they actually probably would have tracked you down easier, Elaine, than this guy because there's probably some record of him being at your place. So, which is why later in the episode, why couldn't they have found out whatever job he went on, he didn't return from? The first suspect should be the person whose place he went to. I listen to Crime Junkie, the podcast, so I know this. Next, Greg says, Elaine pretending she's the Gammy dying on the phone is probably the best part of this whole episode. The way she sort of leads up to her own death is so ridiculous. Why does she even bother talking to Bobby? I think that's the shred of maybe some compassion left in Elaine. Like, all right, he's a little kid. I'll talk to him, but then I'm going to have to die. And by the way, on the phone, just by coughing and telling him I'm dead now. So ridiculous, but so funny. Greg goes on to say, I also love the scene where Elaine and Jerry are playing Battleship. This is so ridiculous, but JLD's sound effect acting here is superb as she makes the explosion sound. It's really good. I also love that they're playing this game. Oh, I know. Just what a nice switch to, just switching it up from a monk scene or just her sitting on the couch. He's in his kitchen. Yeah, I liked this visual. And it's like, okay, sometimes they play Battleship. What? We've never seen this, but I had no trouble believing it at the same time, which is also like this show at this point, we're like, yeah, okay, they play Battleship. I love that. Next, Greg says, I love the Kramer bit where he's at the corner of First and First, the nexus of the universe. To interject some New York City to this, I am at this intersection from time to time, and I always think of this line. Also, the bit about famous Ray's or original Ray's. There are so many Ray's pizzas here. I know there's one right by where Jerry famously lives on the Upper West Side. So I feel like this was something Jerry himself put in the script. Totally. And apparently, Greg, I don't know if you can confirm this since you're on the corner of First and First quite often, but they said in the commentary that there is actually a Ray's pizza. I think it was an original Ray's that was visible from that corner. So I don't know if you can, I don't know if it's still there. Sounds like they're just adding more, maybe not taking them away. But yeah, that was interesting. But thank you for that firsthand New York City information. Next in Greg's sack is his scene swap idea. He says, all around this episode could have been better. I really would have loved there to be a scene where Kramer and Elaine, especially Elaine, tried to come up with nicknames for George. This would have made for such a good bit. Why does this show keep Elaine and George apart so much when the dynamic is always the best one? Great question. Great idea. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, she's not in this nickname thing at all. And that's a prime Benestanza opportunity. You're so right, Greg. Oh, I'm going to be thinking about that now. I wish they would have done that. Even just a couple of scenes or a couple of lines. That's all we needed. All 4 of them in Jerry's apartment. Come on, writers. What the hell? And lastly in Greg's sack are his other thoughts. He says, what happened to Angela Featherstone, the actress who played the Maid? She had quite a run in the late 90s. I always thought she had a cool vibe that sort of made her stand out, especially loved her in The Wedding Singer. Every time I hear Wake Me Up Before You Go, I imagine her version from that movie. Oh my gosh, same. Yeah, she's very funny. She's also the woman Ross cheated on. Oh, you put cheated in quotes on Rachel when they were taking a break. What happened to this actress? I love in this episode when she's talking about the Coco she works with and says, that girl's all right. It's such a random throwaway line, but it makes me laugh the way she says it. Well, I hope I enlightened you with why she says it. Again, the callback to Putty saying, that chimp's all right about Coco the monkey. Oh my gosh. But I agree. That's not an easy, like, how the fuck are you supposed to say that line? And Angela Featherstone does it really well. And like I said, in the commentary, they really thought it was a good idea. And when they watch it back, they're like, we didn't need to put that in there. But hey, I mean, it is memorable for sure because it is so random. Why the hell is she saying that? But I think it also adds to that character. That character is like, Cindy's weird. Cindy's a little odd. And I like that a lot. I didn't see a lot of recent IMDb credits. Maybe she left acting. I don't know. I didn't dig into it that much. There's a thing called Google, Greg. Just Google her up and see what's going on with Angela Featherstone. Where is she now? And lastly, Greg says, does Jerry really need a maid considering he's at home all the time? Did he not learn his lesson from Ray in season 1, who may or may not have stolen a statue? I guess it's hard to keep that 90 square feet clean. Oh, that's such a great callback, Greg. Yes, Ray, the actor who totally stole that statue. Come on. I forgot about that, actually, so long ago. Yeah, who knows? Jerry is a neat freak, obviously, but yeah, it doesn't seem like he's on the road that much. But maybe, that's the stuff we're just supposed to assume. He's so busy on the road with his stand-up career. There's no way he can keep his apartment clean. Thank you so much, Greg, for your thoughts. And now it's time to close Greg's sack lunch. Moving on to my favorite Elaine moments. It's the scene with the fax machine call when she enters the apartment, all that physical comedy, genius, genius, genius. I can't stress that enough. They even paused the commentary to watch that part. All 3 writers were talking, and oh my God, David Mandel, brilliant guy, but my Lord, that guy does not stop talking. If he's on the commentary, it is constant. So it's a chore. It's a big deal if he stops talking, but they did. They stopped talking to watch that scene because they were just marveling at how brilliant JLD is in that scene. I echo that. It's my favorite scene, favorite Elaine moment. Close second is the simple moment of her shrugging after shattering Bobby's heart, telling him that his Gammy is dead now. Okay, bye. And she's just, that shrug is so funny. There's so much to that shrug. Like, all right, I did what I could. It's fine. That was good enough. And my final notes for the episode. I gotta say, this episode, unlike Greg, I really like it. It slides under the radar for me, but it's a really great Elaine episode. So many fun moments. And as I mentioned before, packed storyline with fabulous pacing, fabulous heightening. I wouldn't change a thing about Elaine's plot. Kramer's plot is my least favorite. It just doesn't track for me. Kramer is the quintessential New Yorker. He's lived there forever. He knows the city inside and out. Come on. It's a bit of a stretch to make him lose so many IQ points and get lost in downtown New York. It's the least funny for sure. I know what they were going for here, but even the writers in the commentary, they were like, yeah, this might have been a little too far to believe that Kramer, first of all, thinks that a girlfriend downtown is long distance and that like he couldn't find his way back. Okay, we made a mistake. I think they could have added more to the now we're cooking plot between Elaine and Kramer, or maybe he's searching for a fax machine, all way more entertaining than Kramer forgetting that he's lived in New York City for decades and cannot navigate his way through the city. Ugh. And then also I want to add in, yes, we needed a Benestanza scene coming up with nicknames for George because that would have been just like a gold mine for really funny moments. Okay, I think that's all I can say about The Maid. Guys, the next episode is the last one before the finale. It's almost over. I can't believe it. Please be sure to follow Hot and Heavy on social media. On Instagram, it's at Hot Heavy Elaine. On TikTok, it's at Elaine Benes Podcast. And if you'd like to email me, please do at elainepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.